Ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you that wealth isn't something you chase? It's something you attract? That the difference between struggling for success and living in effortless abundance has nothing to do with luck, money, or connections, but everything to do with how you think. You've been taught to work harder, to grind longer, but the truth is, it's not your effort that determines your fortune, it's your mindset. Change your thoughts, and you'll change your world. Think like this, and watch your wealth come naturally. You will notice, as your thinking begins to change, that everything around you seems to respond differently. Same world that once appeared filled with difficulty and limitation before. These doors were always there, but they were invisible to the mind that was focused on fear and scarcity. Once your consciousness rises to the level of abundance, the world seems to rearrange itself to match your new vibration of thought. People call this luck or coincidence, but it is nothing of the kind. It is the natural law of mind at work, the quiet and unfailing principle that says you become what you think about most of the time. You will meet people who seem to succeed effortlessly and others who work endlessly but never advance. The difference between them is not effort, but direction. The first group knows where they are going. They hold a definite purpose and a steady belief that they will reach it. The second group allows themselves to be tossed about by every circumstance, constantly reacting instead of creating. One is guided by vision, the other is controlled by environment, and the results could not be more different. Wealth flows to those who live by design, not by default. To think rightly about wealth is to think in terms of growth. Everything in nature grows. Trees, rivers, civilizations, and ideas. Life itself is a process of expansion. The person who resists growth, who clings to comfort, security, or fear of loss, unknowingly cuts themselves off from the stream of abundance. But the one who embraces progress, who learns daily, who strives to give more value today than yesterday, aligns themselves with the very rhythm of the universe, and the universe, in turn, supports them. Every wealthy person has learned that the greatest fortune is found not in gold. You can lose money and regain it. You can lose possessions and rebuild them. But once you have developed a wealthy mind, a mind trained to see opportunity, to act decisively, to think creatively, you possess something that can never be taken from you. It becomes a source of endless creation. Money merely flows to it just as water flows to the lowest point by law. The person of wealth in thought cannot remain poor. In fact, for every idea they touch becomes fertile ground for prosperity. Begin to see yourself as the creator of wealth rather than the seeker of it. Every invention, every business, every improvement that has ever benefited humanity began with an individual who saw a need and filled it. Look around you. There are needs everywhere, waiting for a creative mind to meet them. Each of these needs represents potential wealth. You have within you the capacity to contribute something unique to the world, something no one else can give in quite the same way. That contribution, when developed and delivered with excellence, becomes the foundation of your prosperity. The great mistake is believing that wealth is limited, that there is not enough to go around. That belief breeds competition and fear. But look closer at life itself, the abundance of air you breathe, the endless stars in the sky, the overflowing harvests of the earth. Nature is extravagant beyond measure. There is no shortage in creation. There is only limitation in perception. When you think abundantly, you will open yourself to this endless source. You begin to act with generosity, confidence, and creativity, and those very qualities attract success to you like a magnet. Consider what happens when you begin to see money as a form of energy, neutral in itself, ready to flow wherever it is invited through service, value, and faith. If you think of it as something scarce or difficult to obtain, you create resistance. You choke the flow with anxiety. But when you see it as a natural result of your contribution, you relax and allow it to circulate freely. You give it purpose instead of pressure. It is never money you are after. It is freedom, security, expression, and the ability to create more good in the world. And those things come only when your thinking aligns with the higher principles of giving and growth. You cannot think like a beggar and live like a king. You cannot speak words of lack and expect prosperity to answer. Every word you speak, every image you hold, every emotion you dwell on, becomes a signal sent out into the universe, and the universe responds in kind. Speak abundance, and abundance begins to take form. Speak limitation, and limitation takes root. The person who understands this chooses their thoughts carefully, knowing that each one is a seed of destiny. Do not make the mistake of believing that wealth requires exploitation or dishonesty. True wealth comes through service and integrity. When your wealth is built on deceit, it carries with it the seed of its own destruction. But when your fortune is built on honesty, usefulness, and goodwill, it becomes unshakable. The wise individual knows that success gained through right thinking and right action endures, because it rests upon law, not luck. The same law that governs the movement of planets governs the movement of prosperity. You cannot cheat it, but you can cooperate with it. Think of yourself as a channel of good in the world. Money, opportunity, and ideas will flow through you as long as you remain open to giving and receiving. When you give your time, your effort, your creativity sincerely, life gives back multiplied. It may not always come immediately, but the law of compensation never fails. Somewhere, sometime, somehow, the value you create will return to you. That is why it is so vital to think rightly, not with greed or impatience, but with calm confidence in the unfolding process. The wealthy thinker does not wait for perfect conditions. They act on faith. They know that action, guided by right thought, produces clarity and momentum. Most people wait for circumstances to change before they begin. But the person who understands the law of the mind begins first within, and outer conditions rearrange themselves accordingly. They don't wonder whether opportunities exist. They create them through imagination, persistence, and service. If you wish to multiply your wealth, multiply your capacity to think clearly. Set aside time every day for study, reflection, and planning. Fill your mind with ideas that inspire, strengthen, and uplift you. Avoid gossip, negativity, and fear-based talk, for these weaken the creative spirit. The mind must be fed, just as the body must be nourished. A starved mind produces only poverty. A well-fed, disciplined mind produces prosperity naturally, because it has learned to cooperate with the laws of success. You must also learn the art of patience. Great fortunes are rarely built overnight. The oak tree takes years to grow from a tiny acorn, but within that acorn is all the potential it will ever need. Your ideas are like that acorn. Give them time. Nurture them with consistent effort and unwavering belief. The impatient thinker digs up the seed before it has a chance to grow, wondering why nothing appears. But the wise thinker trusts the process. They plant, water, and wait, knowing that the harvest will come in due season. As you grow in understanding, you'll begin to recognize that wealth is more than financial. It includes health, peace of mind, strong relationships, and a sense of purpose. Money alone, without these, is poverty in disguise. True wealth means living fully, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. It means waking each day with enthusiasm, doing work that contributes meaningfully to the world, and knowing that you are in harmony with the laws of life. And when your thinking aligns with those laws, financial prosperity becomes just one of many blessings that follow. Observe those who complain about their lack of success. They often speak of what others have done to them, of bad luck, of unfair breaks. Their minds are occupied with resentment and blame, yet in doing so, they give away their power. You can never rise while your thoughts are chained to what you cannot control. The successful thinker, on the other hand, takes full responsibility for their outcomes. They know that by changing their thoughts, they can change their world. They focus not on excuses, but on execution, not on what is missing, but on what can be created. And so you must make your mind the richest place in your life. Let it be filled with faith instead of fear, gratitude instead of complaint, vision instead of confusion. Think of yourself not as one who must strive endlessly for wealth, but as one who allows it to flow naturally through right thinking, right service, and right action. The mind that sees itself as already rich in potential cannot help but attract riches in form. When you reach this level of understanding, effort becomes joy, work becomes play, and life itself becomes a grand adventure in creation. You no longer work for money. You work for meaning. Money becomes a tool, not a master. And because your thinking is rooted in abundance and service, it comes to you more freely than ever before. Wealth begins to arrive not as a result of desperate struggle, but as the calm and steady outcome of right thought sustained over time. Every great truth of success can be reduced to this. Think in harmony with abundance, and abundance will think in harmony with you. As your inner world expands, your outer world must follow. The person who learns to think rightly becomes like a magnet, drawing to themselves all that is necessary for the fulfillment of their purpose. And in that alignment, wealth quietly, naturally, inevitably comes. You will begin to notice that as your inner world grows richer, your outer world starts to rearrange itself in ways you could never have planned. Circumstances, people, and opportunities begin to appear, often at the precise moment you are ready to receive them. This is not magic. It is law. The thoughts you hold with conviction emit silent vibration, and that vibration draws to you its own kind. Like attracts like, and wealth, true, enduring wealth, who are inwardly aligned with it. When you begin to think in harmony with prosperity, you set invisible forces into motion that work day and night to bring your vision into reality. Your responsibility is to hold the image, to nurture it, and to act with faith upon every opportunity that presents itself. Too many people destroy their dreams by demanding proof before they believe. They say, "When I see results, then I'll have faith." But that is like saying to a fire, "Give me heat, and then I'll give you wood." Life does not work that way. The fire of wealth begins with your belief. The heat comes afterward. You must first believe that abundance is natural to you, that it already exists in the unseen, waiting only for your acceptance. Every thought you dwell upon consistently becomes part of your identity. If you continually think in terms of lack, you train your subconscious mind to expect struggle. But if you fill your mind with thoughts of abundance, confidence, and gratitude, you begin to expect prosperity. An expectation is the bridge between thought and experience. You will only ever receive what you expect, no more and no less. Expectation is faith made active. It turns invisible ideas into tangible results. Think for a moment about the people who shape the world around you. The inventors, the creators, the leaders. They all began as dreamers, holding an idea in their mind long before others could see it. The world may have doubted them, criticized them, or called them unrealistic. Yet they persisted because they understood that thought precedes all manifestation. They did not wait for the world's permission to believe in their vision. They gave themselves permission first, and as they continued to think rightly, the world slowly began to adjust to match their mental picture. That same power lies within you, waiting for your direction. You may find at times that old habits of thought creep back. Doubt, fear, hesitation. That is natural, for the mind is conditioned by years of inherited beliefs about money and success. But each time you catch yourself thinking small, gently replace the thought. Do not condemn yourself, simply redirect. Say to yourself, "That thought does not serve me anymore. I now think in terms of abundance, service, and opportunity." Each correction strengthens your new mental pattern until it becomes automatic. Gradually, your inner dialogue will transform from one of worry to one of confidence, and your results will follow accordingly. You will also discover that wealth does not come through frantic activity, but through calm, directed effort. There is a difference between movement and progress. Many people rush through life always busy yet never advancing. Their minds are scattered, their energy divided, and their results reflect their confusion. But the person who thinks clearly, who moves with purpose, accomplishes more with less effort. Their thoughts are ordered, their actions deliberate, their focus unwavering. They understand that clarity is power, and power used intelligently always produces wealth. The more you grow in understanding, the more you realize that money is a servant, not a master. It amplifies what already exists within you. In the hands of the wise, it becomes an instrument for good, a means of creation, comfort, and contribution. In the hands of the fearful, it becomes a source of anxiety and conflict. This is why your first task is always inner mastery. The person who cannot control their thoughts cannot control their wealth. The person who is easily swayed by emotion cannot hold abundance for long. True prosperity begins with self-discipline, the quiet strength to remain steady in purpose while the world around you changes. One of the greatest secrets of wealth is found in consistency. Success does not arrive in sudden bursts, but through small, deliberate actions repeated daily. A single thought held long enough becomes a belief. A belief acted upon becomes a habit, and a habit sustained over time shapes destiny in a descent. The most prosperous people are those who have learned to direct their daily habits toward growth. They rise each day with purpose. They act with integrity, and they constantly seek ways to add value to the world. Wealth is simply the harvest of those habits. As your thinking evolves, you will begin to see opportunities hidden in plain sight. What others overlook or dismiss, you will recognize as potential. This heightened awareness is not coincidence. It is the natural result of a mind tuned to prosperity. You are no longer blinded by fear or limitation. You are guided by insight. Your mind becomes a powerful instrument for creation, capable of seeing connections where others see separation. And every time you act on those insights, your confidence grows, drawing even more opportunity into your orbit. There will be moments when progress seems slow, when results appear distant. But understand that the law of growth is always working, whether you see it or not. The farmer does not dig up his seeds each morning to check if they are sprouting. He knows that the soil is doing its work in silence. In the same way, when you think correctly and act with faith, your results are growing beneath the surface of your awareness. One day, you will look back and realize that the wealth you sought was forming all along, quietly and consistently, as a result of your new way of thinking. Another essential truth about wealth is that it cannot coexist with resentment or envy. When you look at the success of others, bless it. Celebrate it. The moment you feel jealousy, you push prosperity away because you declare through emotion that you and success are separate. But when you rejoice in another's abundance, you affirm that abundance is natural, possible, and available to you as well. The mind that is free of envy is fertile ground for wealth. The heart that rejoices in another's goodwill soon attracts its own. Keep your attention fixed on the idea of service. Every time you add value to someone's life, you make a deposit in the invisible bank of the universe. Those deposits return to you multiplied, though not always from the same source you gave them to. The law of compensation ensures that every act of genuine service is rewarded. The more people you serve, and the greater the quality of your service, the more inevitable your wealth becomes. The great secret is that you cannot outgive life. Whatever you contribute comes back to you in unexpected ways, often at the exact moment you need it most. You must also learn to detach from fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of loss. These fears belong to the mind that believes in scarcity. The wealthy thinker knows that failure is not an end but a beginning, not a loss but a lesson. Each setback carries within it the seed of an equal or greater opportunity. When you refuse to be discouraged, you demonstrate faith in the law of abundance. You prove that you trust the process, and life rewards that trust. The person who can remain calm and optimistic in adversity has already mastered the essence of wealth. Do not underestimate the power of gratitude. Gratitude keeps the channel of abundance open. When you give thanks sincerely for what you already possess, you send a signal to the universe that you are ready for more. Gratitude multiplies everything it touches. It turns ordinary moments into miracles, work into joy, and struggle into growth. Begin and end each day by giving thanks, not as a formality, but as a genuine expression of appreciation for the opportunity to think, to create, and to serve. Gratitude is the language of abundance, and the universe always listens to those who speak it fluently. As you continue on this path, you will notice that your desires begin to refine themselves. You will crave not merely the accumulation of wealth, but the freedom to live meaningfully. You will find greater satisfaction in creating than in possessing. You will see that money is only one form of wealth, and that true riches include time, health, relationships, wisdom, and peace of mind. When your thinking reaches this level, wealth flows naturally because you are no longer chasing it, you are expressing it. You have become what you once sought. Everything you have ever desired begins first in thought. The moment you choose to think in harmony with abundance, you step into alignment with the greatest power in existence, the power to create. The world will continue to mirror your thoughts, reflecting your faith or your doubt, your abundance or your fear. Choose your thoughts wisely, for they are the architects of everything you experience. When your mind lives in the atmosphere of abundance, wealth cannot help but come, for you have become one with the law that produces it. And as this awareness deepens, you begin to recognize that every detail of your outer life, your work, your surroundings, your relationships, acts as a mirror of your inner state. When you cultivate thoughts of order, gratitude, and purpose, you'll notice that the chaos that once clouded your path begins to fade. Life starts to cooperate with you in quiet, almost mysterious ways. The right people begin to appear at the right time. Ideas come more easily. The opportunities that once seemed hidden now present themselves naturally, as if they had been waiting patiently for you to think the right thoughts. It is in this stage of understanding that you realize wealth is not something you pursue. It is something you allow. It flows through you according to the pattern of your consciousness. The person who understands this lives differently. They no longer act from fear or desperation. They do not wake in the morning wondering whether life will treat them fairly. Instead, they rise with calm assurance, knowing that as they think rightly, life cannot help but respond rightly. Their focus is no longer on chasing results, but on perfecting thought. They spend time in quiet reflection, feeding their mind with truth, strengthening their belief in abundance, and releasing every trace of doubt. They understand that when their mind is tuned to the frequency of prosperity, they are already wealthy, regardless of the balance in their account. The outer form will simply follow the inner image. You will also come to understand that true wealth is not about accumulation. It is about circulation. What flows must flow through. The more you allow the energy of prosperity to move through your life, the more it grows. Hoarding comes from fear, from the false belief that there is not enough to go around. But generosity is an expression of faith in the law of abundance. The one who gives freely, wisely, and joyfully confirms that they live in an abundant universe, and life responds by sending more through them. Money, opportunities, and ideas are all currents of the same river. To stop them is to stagnate, but to let them flow is to prosper. Begin to think of your work not merely as a job, but as a channel through which wealth flows to and through you. Whatever you do, do it with excellence, integrity, and enthusiasm. Even if your present circumstances seem small, pour your best into them. The habit of excellence builds magnetism. It makes you stand out, draws recognition, and multiplies your influence. The person who gives more than they are paid for will soon be paid for more than they give, for the law of compensation always catches up. The world cannot long ignore the one who consistently adds value. As you train your mind to see opportunities, you will notice that they rarely appear labeled as such. They often come disguised as challenges, as extra work, or even as temporary setbacks. Yet within each one lies the seed of advancement. The person who has learned to think abundantly welcomes difficulty as a test of creativity. They know that every challenge contains the raw material of growth. They do not shrink back when life asks for more of them. They rise gladly to the occasion, for they understand that the demand itself is proof of potential. You are never asked to handle what you cannot grow into. It is at this stage that self-belief becomes your greatest asset. You begin to trust the quiet whisper within that says you are capable of more, that the same intelligence that governs the stars also flows through your mind. When you act from that awareness, hesitation disappears. You stop comparing yourself to others and start competing only with your former self. You move through life with calm certainty, not arrogance, but a serene understanding that you are working in partnership with a universal law that cannot fail. That quiet confidence is magnetic. It draws people, ideas, and circumstances into alignment with your purpose. You may find that as your thinking expands, some old relationships or environments no longer resonate with you. That is natural. You are evolving, and growth often requires release. Do not cling to what was. Trust the unfolding of what is. The soil must break for the seed to emerge, and sometimes that breaking feels uncomfortable. But remember, discomfort is a sign of expansion. When you begin to think in harmony with abundance, everything that no longer matches that vibration will fall away, making room for what does. Keep your thoughts elevated. Think not in terms of what you fear losing, but in terms of what you are becoming. Fear narrows your vision. Faith expands it. The fearful person sees obstacles. The faithful one sees opportunities hidden within them. Fearful thinking says, what if it doesn't work? Faithful thinking says, what if it does, and better than I imagined? The shift may seem small, but it changes everything. Your mind becomes a garden in which only prosperous thoughts are allowed to grow. And that garden begins to yield its fruits in the form of circumstances, opportunities, and wealth. Remember that wealth is a state of order, and order begins with clarity. The disorganized mind scatters its power, chasing many things and completing few. But the mind that knows its aim channels its energy like a laser. It wastes nothing. It acts only on ideas that serve its purpose, and thus it multiplies results while conserving effort. Each day, remind yourself of your purpose. Write it down. Visualize it clearly. Every action that aligns with that purpose is a step toward greater abundance. In your dealings with others, always think win-win. The person who thinks in terms of mutual benefit is practicing one of the highest forms of wealth consciousness. They understand that every exchange of money, service, or ideas should enrich both parties. When you make others better off, you open a wider channel for prosperity to return. People trust and reward those who genuinely aim to serve rather than exploit. This single principle has built more fortunes than all the shortcuts and schemes in the world combined. As you live by these laws, notice how your emotions begin to stabilize. The anxiety that once followed you fades away. You no longer feel the desperate need to prove yourself or to control every detail. You operate from a deeper sense of peace, knowing that right thinking produces right outcomes. You've discovered that wealth does not begin with struggle. It begins with stillness. From that stillness, the right ideas emerge, and from those ideas, the right actions naturally follow. You will find joy in the process of growth itself. Each day becomes an adventure in creation. Even setbacks become meaningful, for you've learned to see them as part of the rhythm of progress. You may lose something temporarily, but you will never feel poor again, because you know that your wealth lies not in possessions, but in your ability to think. As long as you can think clearly, no loss is permanent. You can rebuild, recreate, and rise again stronger than before. Eventually, you begin to radiate a quiet assurance that others can feel. People sense your calm, your faith, and your certainty, and they are drawn to it. They want to do business with you, to work with you, to trust you. That inner confidence, born of right thinking, becomes your greatest advertisement. It cannot be faked, and it cannot be hidden. It is the natural glow of a person who has aligned their mind with the laws of abundance. And then something beautiful happens. You start to inspire others. Your example becomes a living message that wealth is not reserved for a few, but available to all who learn to think rightly. You lift others simply by your presence, by the way you speak, the way you approach problems, the way you live. You show through your actions that prosperity is not about luck or background, but about mindset. In doing so, you multiply your wealth again. For every life you uplift adds unseen value to your own. As this new way of thinking becomes your second nature, life begins to feel effortless. The tension that once accompanied work is replaced by flow. You no longer chase success, you cooperate with it. You have learned that the outer world is not your master. It is your mirror. And since your thoughts are now steady, confident, and generous, your outer life reflects those same qualities. Money becomes easy to attract, not because you're lucky, but because you've become the kind of person wealth is naturally drawn to. The transformation is subtle yet powerful. Where once there was doubt, there is certainty. Where once there was fear, there is peace. Where once you sought wealth outside yourself, now you recognize it as something that begins within. Every idea, every opportunity, every connection you need is drawn to you through the magnetism of your thoughts. You no longer wonder whether it will come. You know that it must, because you are now living in harmony with the law that governs it. And as you continue to think this way, calmly, confidently, gratefully, you will witness the quiet unfolding of prosperity in every part of your life. The wealth you once dreamed of becomes your reality, not as something achieved through force or chance, but as the natural expression of a mind that has finally learned to think in tune with abundance.